Hello guys, and welcome to my review of the latest release of MX Linux, MX17. MX Linux has been steadily growing in popularity recently, and on top of that I've noticed some hype around the latest version on social media. Now, for those who don't know, MX Linux is a midweight Linux distro based on Debian stable, with additional software created by the MX community, as well as bleeding-edge versions of some critical packages like the kernel or the web browser. It uses Xfce as its desktop environment. The goal of MX Linux is basically to combine an elegant and efficient desktop with simple configuration, high stability, and solid performance. Now, the way they try to achieve all these is by using Debian stable as a base, whereas for instance Ubuntu pulls packages from the unstable and testing branches. On top of that, they've developed their own set of tools, the MX tools, which makes configuration and common tasks easier for the user. It also comes with a wide range of software and themes out of the box. Whoa, that was a longish intro to my review, but I suppose it's justifiable because MX Linux isn't exactly as popular as the likes of Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, Arch Linux, well, you name it. So, let's finally begin. And the first time you log in, you're greeted with this welcome screen. MX17 Horizon. Welcome to MX Linux, a fast, friendly, and stable OS loaded with amazing tools and supported by a great community. Well, I really like this welcome screen because although it's quite simple, it provides you with links to some important information, like for instance the user's manual, which I suggest to any new user to MX Linux. It's comprehensive, yet not hard to read, and it explains everything you need to know about this distro, like for instance the tools MX has developed. There's also a link to the wiki, to the tools. This is basically a list of all the tools, of all the MX tools, which were developed by the community to help you configuring the system and to do common tasks and make them easier. I should point out, for instance here, the NVIDIA driver installer, which would be really useful for new users to Linux, and of course an easy codecs installer, which also makes it extremely easy to install codecs, whereas on other distros, like for instance Debian, you'd have to do that on the command line. Then there's also a link to Tweak, which is a neat tool provided by MX to tweak your desktop, a link to their forums, a link to some videos, and of course, if you would like to contribute, you have this link here. And this link, Popular Apps, basically opens their own package manager with a selection of featured apps. And at last, we can see how the default desktop looks. As you know, it's the Xfce desktop environment. However, it has been heavily customized for us, giving it a very elegant and modern look. At first sight, what strikes me the most is this conky widget here. It looks pretty cool right out of the box, showing the time, date, and some general system stats in the nice format. The default wallpaper is also nice, but once you look to the left, you see these. This vertical panel. I've tried to use vertical panels in the past, since they serve vertical real estate in your screen, but I've always moved back to horizontal ones due to aesthetic reasons. Fortunately, this is Linux, and we have the freedom to customize pretty much everything. There's even a specific MX tool, which we will use later, that allows us to customize the panel. Let's go through this panel here. At the top you have the clock, and if you click it, you get a nice little calendar. Then you have a shortcut to Firefox. Let's just briefly check the version. It's version 57.0.4, which is quite ahead of the version you get with vanilla Debian. If I'm not mistaken, the version there is 52.6 right now. Then you have a shortcut to the file manager, which obviously is Thuna, this nice little file manager that almost everyone loves, because it does its job and stays out of your way, and on top of that it also looks amazing and clean. Then down here you have some status icons. First off, you have this one, which shows you how many package updates are available. 38 right now. If you click it, it runs the MX Updater tool, which basically runs an apt-get dist upgrade. You just need to click here, dist upgrade, and it runs the dist upgrade, upgrading all these listed packages here. Then you have a Clipboard Manager, which I think it's Clipit. Yes, indeed, it's Clipit. Then the keyboard, the network status, then audio, and the power status. And finally, an eject button so that you can unmount any USB device. At the very bottom here, you have Xfce's whisker menu. The first thing I noticed is that it's resizable, which is quite neat. I like to use it like this. And then you have a few categories on the right. Let's start by the MX tools. These are the tools that are developed by the MX Linux project. There are a few ones, but let's pick a couple and show what they do. First off, MX Conky. This is a tool that allows you to configure the Conky in real time. It's quite nice. You can, for instance, change how the day and month look. It's long now, the day, and you can change it to short, and as you can see, it updates on the fly. You can also change how the month looks. Let's make it long, and as you see, January, it was updated on the fly. You can also change colors. Let's pick a different one, and it's red now. Back to white. So let's go back to MX Tools. This one, MX Package Installer, is also worth of notice. And it's asking for the root password. Yes. This is the MX Package Installer. Well, it has two tabs here. The first one is Popular Applications. It shows you what are the most popular applications. And to the right, you have the full app catalog. And it asks you which repo to load. The stable repo, MX test repo, Debian backports. Let's go with stable repo. This is basically their own graphical tool for package management, but Synaptic is also present on the system, and I definitely recommend using Synaptic over this one because, well, it's common sense that Synaptic is the best graphical user interface for APT anyway. Let's close it. Max Tools. This one, MX Repo Manager, allows you to choose different repos for APT. The first tab is for MX repos, which is their own repos for their own packages. They provide a lot of packages on top of the ones provided by Debian. And then there's also individual sources which you can check. But then again, I recommend using Synaptic, or if you like me and love the command line, you should use apt-get or similar. Next off, MX Tweak. This is quite nice because it allows you to easily customize your desktop. Let's start off with a panel. Well, as I told you before, I really don't like this vertical panel, so let's just click here and then apply, and the panel will now display horizontally at the bottom or at the top. It looks much nicer now. You can also change themes easily with this tool. You just have to press this drop down and choose whichever theme you want. There aren't many themes pre-installed, but this is enough for me. Let's try the dark version of MX17. Apply. See? It has updated. Oh, and it even informs you that Firefox may require a restart for changes to take effect. Let's press OK. You can also change the compositor here. I'm not using one right now. And several other options that you can enable or disable through this tweak tool. You can choose other theme, like for instance the Numix theme, which is quite popular. Looks quite nice. But I guess my favorite right now is MX17 Dark. This one is also interesting, quick system info. And it displays some nice and cool system starts, as you can see. Now, let's see accessories. There's a lot of them. But this one in particular, Conky Toggle, is quite handy. You just press it and it toggles Conky on or off so that you can enable or disable the widget on the fly. You can click it again to toggle it on this time, and there it is. There's also the Clipboard Manager. This allows you to choose different Conky configurations, different themes. You preview them down here. Oops. This one looks nice. Let's enable it. And it updates right away. I like this. It's really nice and easy. Let's try another one. There it is. It just updates on the fly. But I also like the default one. So let's get back to the default one. There's also games. Oh, they've even included Chromium BSU. New game. Well, let's play a little bit. I'm terrible. I'm a terrible gamer. So let's instead get back to reviewing this distro. What else? Well, graphics, they have GIMP installed, and also ImageMagick. These two are quite nice. Then Internet, Firefox has a web browser. Interesting, GNOME PPP, GNOME dial-up tool. This makes me a little bit nostalgic about the 90s. Although I'm sure that there are still a lot of people using dial-up to connect to the internet these days. Xfce, which is my favorite IRC client. Thunderbird, which is also my favorite email client. And Transmission. Multimedia. There's Clementine, one of the most popular music players. VLC, which everyone loves. And then you have the LibreOffice suite. Settings. There's quite a lot of stuff here. And system. Let's open a terminal now. And the first thing you notice is that the prompt looks a little bit weird. it's certainly different from most Linux distros. Usually the prompt is one line only, but this one, on MX Linux, is 2 lines. This seems weird at first sight, but there's an advantage. Suppose you need to cd into a folder called "this is a really long folder name." Now, if you had a regular prompt with a single line, now your next command would have not a lot of space available, whereas with this solution, your next command is always on the next line and you have full space available. This is quite nice. Let's check the kernel version. It's kernel 4.14.0, whereas under Debian is 4.9 if I'm not mistaken, 4.9.0. Now, as usually, let's run the Spectre Meltdown checker on this distro. Well, like most distros right now, MX Linux seems to be vulnerable to Spectre variant 1 and variant 2, and not vulnerable to Meltdown. And to wrap it up, I must say that I really enjoy MX Linux. It looks pretty out of the box, with a nicely customized Xfce. You can easily configure it to your liking using the MX tools, and it feels rock solid since it's based on Debian stable. I would recommend it to both advanced and new users, since MX has produced outstanding helping tools. I would particularly recommend this distro for anyone interested in having a Debian stable base as their desktop, with critical packages like the kernel or the web browser upgraded to newer versions. There are only 2 things I can point out. 1. It felt a little bit bloated, with so many packages pre-installed. But then again, this is the opinion of a minimalist powered user. And 2, I wouldn't ship it with a vertical panel by default, as probably most users prefer horizontal ones anyway. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you'd like to see more videos like this one, please consider hitting the subscribe button below. As always, use Linux long and prosper.